Welcome, my friends. In today's episode, we are going to talk about your happiness. I thought this was kind of a random message that was coming through. I was like, why are we doing messages about your happiness? But man, did I get answers when I asked that question. It seems like we're in this point of our process where we've been maybe manifesting or dreaming about something that we want to bring in. And we've been doing all the things about like getting in the vibe and visualizing it and seeing it. But it is now time to actually embody it and bring that happiness to this present moment, even though we may not have the thing yet. And really just move away from thinking that happiness is in the future or happiness is when we have that thing. Because I feel like perhaps we are white knuckling this time in our lives, like almost the future is going to be all rainbows and butterflies and we're going to love it. And we just have to wait and do like hard things until we get there. And it's like, no, we're meant to bring that happiness in this moment so that the future can come more easily. And also so that we are not concerned about the timing of it, right? Like, this whole new life that you're bringing forward that is coming from this new structure that you're putting together may take anywhere from a year and a half to 3 years. So, what we're going to wait until then, we need to be able to bring that in this moment and really find, as cheesy as it may sound, some happiness in the journey. Because my sense is that we've been building these new structures for this new life, for this new vision that we have, but it takes time for that vision to come forward. And every day, if we're waking up being like, oh, this vision's still not here, and I'm failing because like I don't have this or that, or it doesn't look like this, then we are forgetting like what this moment is actually about. So, this moment is about being here, being present, and bringing this happiness. And a lot of these messages are just telling us kind of what not to do and what to do when it comes to our happiness. The reason this is coming through also is because we have some sort of connection or addiction, if you want to call it that, to chaos or adrenaline. It looks like we're coming off of a time that maybe there were these high moments. Even like if you think about that 2020 time, even though it was a very crazy time, there were a lot of people that grew their businesses during that time. And there was a lot of influx, or think about the years before that, all these tech bros making all this money off of these different apps or things that they were making. And it looks like some of us grew up with that, or even like, oh, this time of buying houses at a certain time. And like the world has changed so much, the world is shifting so much that these kind of lottery wins or this jackpot way of living is just not the way we're supposed to move. We're actually moving into new structures that are going to create a very sustainable, grounded, just a life that we can sustain and that we can continue to live and be very peaceful. And we have to understand the difference between this era and the era that we're coming from, especially if you're a millennial, because the millennial grew up a little bit of that Vegas lottery, you know, gambling situation. And now we're moving into these sustainable ways of living, and it's a little different. So we actually have to train our bodies. We have to remove ourselves from this adrenaline and kind of remove ourselves from that chaos, because we're looking for something that can last and also something that is healthy. It's not just about the greed that we've been going after for so long. It's now about being, what is the healthiest thing for me? What is the best place for my nervous system? What is the best way for me to move forward that I can actually sustain? And that's very different. So our happiness is looking different. And I feel like happiness is a broader word for also what you want and what you think is going to make you happy. So I'm really excited to share these messages. I think we'll find a lot of wisdom and a lot of tools and tricks to be able to move forward and not only be happy in this moment, but also bring the thing that we know is going to even give us more happiness as well. So let's get into today's 7 messages. Message number 1 is the opposite of happiness. There is a grief that is trying to come through, or that is already here, that we first have to look at. So this grief may be like, man, I thought things were going to work out this way. Or this grief might be like, I am letting go of this old identity, this old way of doing things. It could be like, oh, I thought I was going to get a $300,000 house and that didn't happen. And now it looks like I'm going to have to do XYZ to get the kind of house that I want. Right. So there's this grief that's trying to come through that is very real and very much important to look at that we just have to accept and be with and sit with and understand. What's interesting about this grief is that it's not a bad thing. It's actually a little white flag. You know that little white flag of surrender being like, "That's it. I'm tired. I'm over it. I don't care anymore. Like I'm super over it. I'm just not going to do it this way." And you almost think that you're giving up on the dream or you're giving up on the path. But what you're actually giving up is your ego to that path. The divine is like, please hand me your expectations. Hand over what you thought was going to work or how you thought it was going to work or what you thought was going to make you happy. Hand it over to me, put that little white flag up and surrender and accept. And for some of us, the surrender might come with some grief, but it's not because you're doing the wrong thing. It's really because now you are moving to a highest outcome and the highest path that is very much in alignment with the divine. So this is a great thing, but sometimes that grief comes forward and makes us forget what it even feels like to be happy. So it's okay if you're feeling this, but it's important to understand that it is coming with it's a grief wave that's trying to help us surrender what we thought was going to make us happy or how it was actually going to look. There it's not that there's a greater dream coming forward, but I almost wanna say it's the more realistic path, if that makes sense, and you know me, I'm such a big dreamer, I don't always like to talk about, like, what's most realistic, but it's kinda like I've had this really big dream, and it's been really fun thinking about it and manifesting it and visualizing it, but now I'm realizing that when I ground it into the earth and I start doing some steps and I start doing the thing, this big dream feels very overwhelming and I'm not sure if it's going to happen overnight the way that I originally thought it was. So I'm grieving this big dream that I had now that I see like what it's going to take to actually move forward. So that groundedness is actually the realistic way of this coming forward. You know, like when you're planning a vacation and you see like all these beautiful pictures of Spain, let's say, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go there. And, you know, the girl online made it look so magical. And then, like, finally you show up and it's a cloudy day and it's like way dirtier than you ever thought. And your outfit does not look as good as the other girl's outfit on Instagram did, right? You're like, damn, this dream is looking very different. And it's like, yeah, because the videos and all this stuff is like so dreamy. We edit it, we can change the colors of things, we can stage it, you know, all these different reasons like why it looks different in real life. So there's something about like this grief is coming because we are facing the IRL of the dream, if that makes sense. So, and also it might even be like, man, the IRL of this dream is hard, right? And I'm like afraid that I won't be able to do it. I'm afraid that it's not going to happen for me. It was so much easier for me to dream about it, think about it, manifest it, visualize it. And now here I am putting my feet on the ground and actually having to do the steps. And for some reason, I feel sad about it, right? And it's because we are facing the reality. It's almost like we're coming down from that cloud and into our body and into our feet and putting our feet on the ground. And that could be a really big, aggressive shift from where we have been. And, you know, visualizing, even though we don't have it physically, when we visualize and we dream about what we want to do, it does give us a little bit of a happiness hit, or like you're studying something instead of actually like physically doing it. And sometimes the studying of it gives us a little bit more of that dopamine than actually physically doing it, sitting our butt down and writing the book or saving money for the house or going on dates, like whatever it may be. And it's just important to see where that feeling is coming from and understanding it's a little bit of a grief wave, but it has a purpose and it is connected with what the reality is and like what we really have to do. But it's exciting to see what we really have to do because like these are the steps to where we want to go. So this feeling is not saying you're not going to have what you want. This feeling is just saying now we have to get into the body and it feels a little different to do the action and be in the body, and that thing you want is still coming. And I would say that thing you want is still coming but also might take a little bit more time than you originally thought. You're like, Nikki, I thought this was a podcast about happiness and it's just not starting off on a good note. Okay. Well, stay with me, guys. Okay. I promise we'll get there. All right. Message number 2. Happiness is going to come from being in relationship with your creativity. I love the word relationship because With every relationship, there is a daily showing up, or at least a weekly showing up, or a monthly showing up, right? Your closest relationships are people that you are in touch with pretty often, right? And you're checking in with them, or you have had big experiences with them. So you're actually involved, connected. That's what makes a good relationship. And in this case, your creativity, believe it or not, is going to be one of the things that really brings happiness and really grounds the happiness in this present moment. So to be in relationship feels like the reason I was getting that word, it makes me feel that perhaps you want to make something, you want to maybe express yourself, whether that's through the way you dress or through photos or through a creative project, but there's not a relationship with it, meaning that maybe you're not sitting with it once a week, maybe you're not meeting it or looking at it. And I was really getting that you are afraid of your creativity. You're almost like afraid of that intimacy with it. You're afraid to like look at it, sit with it and be with it because my sense is like you just don't think your creativity is good enough, or you have this knowing that it's just not going to come out the way you envision it. So it's better in your head than it is outside, you know? I've shared this story before, but I like love this story because when Oliver, my oldest son, was probably like around 3 or so, he wanted to draw and he wanted me to draw like certain characters for him. I'm a horrible drawer. And he would try drawing it and he'd get so frustrated, just like frustration that only a toddler can have, and he would get mad at me and like throw the paper and be like, you're horrible at drawing this thing. And he was mad at himself for, drawing it as poorly as he was drawing it. And now that he's 12, it's interesting. I'm like, oh, he's a natural good drawer, just like Benny's side of the family. Like nobody taught him how to draw, but he is naturally good at it. And it made me be like, oh, that is why he would get so frustrated when he was little, because he just didn't have the skill set to become the good drawer that he wanted to be. And that was really frustrating him. So it seems like perhaps what's keeping us out of relationship with our creativity is that journey. And it might, and creativity is a broad word, but it could be just like something you want to get good at. Maybe it's a sport, maybe it's creativity, maybe it's something, maybe it's getting good at finances, like something you're trying to get good at, which to me feels like I want to put it in the creativity bracket. But it's just saying that, yeah, there is going to be a process of getting good at it. These readings that I do these days and are really good started off with a ton of practice. And over the years, I mean, I don't know, I've been doing it for almost 10 years now, I think, right? So the reason you see like what I am today is because of the 10 years before that of all the practicing, right? So really spending some time and like not being afraid to look at your creativity, because believe it or not, the being in relationship with it, like being intimate with it, not just thinking about it, not just dreaming about it, but actually being in relationship with it is going to bring you so much happiness. Like you have no idea. Like actually keeping it in your head or keeping it as a visualization is causing more anxiety and worry than actually being with it physically. Like it wants to be your lover. Message number 3: restrictions. My sense is you're trying to bring restrictions into your life, maybe purposefully or not on purpose. Restrictions to me are I can only eat this, or I am like only going to do this on this time. And these restrictions are just not working for you. So I'm here to give you permission, not to say that, like, oh, I have an addiction to alcohol and I'm telling you, like, no, you don't have to restrict it. It just feels like the word restriction just doesn't work for you. And it's actually causing an inauthenticity for you. And it's not like letting you show up with the vibrancy that you actually have. But I'm sure the thing you are trying to restrict does need to be looked at. But the word I was getting instead, the guides were saying to use the word intentional. So this is a funny story. I was doing something with our finances. I was like doing some budgets recently, and I was feeding it into ChatGPT because I was trying to organize something and I wanted ChatGPT to help me. And I was talking about how we want to buy an RV. And I was like, well, of course I can make more money in my business and Benny's business to like bring this income in, but also I want to be mindful and I don't want to like put more pressure on ourselves. So I was like trying to look at if there were things in our current budget that I could lesson so that I can then bring in this RV purchase that we want to buy. And as I was giving ChatGPT all my expenses, ChatGPT was like, you should maybe be intentional with your Amazon purchases. I was like, what? So apparently, we're like spending a lot of money on Amazon. I was spending a lot lately because we were furnishing our new Airbnb, and I think I was buying some stuff on Amazon, but it was kind of funny how Chatty was like, "Hey, maybe look at your Amazons," and she used the word intentional, right? So she's not telling me like no more Amazon purchases. She was saying like be intentional with your purchases, and that is the word for here. Happiness is actually going to come from being intentional, but not being restrictive. Like restrictive is doing the opposite for you, and it's really pulling from you and draining you. And yeah, probably a part of us is like, well, if I'm restrictive on my cookies, I'm going to be happier when I'm healthy and I'm not doing a bunch of sugar. Yes, but the actual word restrictive or the way of looking at it that way is not supporting your happiness. So intentionality is actually what's trying to come in. So being intentional. Amazon purchases make me think of my best friend not the other day, but a few months ago, I was staying with my best friend in Miami, and I've known her since I was a little girl, and her husband actually is the person that introduced me to Benny because they're friends. And I'm sitting there, and the husband's like, "Nikki, do you know your best friend has an Amazon problem?" And he's like, "I have this wife. She's not coming home with Gucci bags or Louis Vuittons or like Saks purchases. No, she's just buying a bunch of Amazon stuff. I don't even know what she's buying." And it was like, I was like, listen, she has a really strict corporate job. So, like, Amazon is her outlet. Like, it's all good. And, it's not to tell her to like not do these purchases, even though she might know, like, I have a problem. I don't want to be spending this way. We don't want to restrict her. We just want her to be intentional. So maybe it's like every time she thinks she's going to go buy something, maybe she does a few deep breaths. Maybe there is a mantra. Maybe she has to answer like a journal prompt that says, like, why do I want this? Like, how is this going to support me? And maybe just give her a few filters or steps before she goes and buys a thing. And for us, maybe it's like before I eat the thing or before I do the thing, maybe I have to ask myself three questions and I have to actually write it out. And after I'm done writing it out, if it's still a yes, then I go forward. And if it's a no, then it's just me being intentional. So I thought that was an interesting one, that some of our happiness is leaking through these restrictions when what we really want is to be intentional. Message number 4, connection. I love this one is specifically for anybody who's really ambitious and maybe is trying to grow something, or even somebody that is like trying to look for a relationship. We can simplify that desire by actually focusing in on connection, and the reason connection is so supportive is because sometimes, like, me finding love might come from a place of fear, right? Like, I'm so afraid of being alone that I need to find a person, and that is not coming from my heart at all. Or let's say with my business, I'm so afraid of my business not growing or failing, and I got to do these things in order for it to survive. When all of that desire is actually in its highest expression, is an expression of the heart, and it's an expression of connection. So I was really getting this message about connection, that a lot of our happiness, right? So even if it's like, I'm going to be happier when my business makes money, or I'm going to be happier when I'm in love, you are right. Like, you will be happier when your business makes money, when you do have love. You're absolutely right. But the way that you're delaying that happiness is coming from a place of fear, when actually we can bring that happiness into the present by focusing on connection. So when I'm in the energy of connection, or when I'm exercising connection, these things that I want, money that comes from my business, more clients, more customers, love is going to come to me, because connection is the energy of these things that we want, anyways. It also just looks like we're spending a lot of time in our heads, or we're spending a lot of time like thinking or seeing the lack of what we don't have, and it's going to be solved by connection. My sense is also that there's a lot of inspiration and intuition that comes when we are in connection. Really seeing that sitting down, talking to a person, reaching out to that friend, having dinner with that friend is going to bring a ton of happiness. We might think we don't have time for it or that we're too busy, but I'm actually seeing like those conversations and those moments just taking you out of your head and taking you out of your worry and your scarcity, and bringing you a ton of inspiration and even messages. Because Connection creates presence, and everything comes from presence. Like anytime I do these readings, it's so funny. People are like, "Oh, how are you so intuitive? How are you doing it?" And I'm like, "I'm in a complete state of presence. I forget where I'm at. I forget about my family, my worries, my finances, like anything. I'm just forgetting about those things. I'm fully in a present state, and that's how I receive the information. And connection with people seems to give us that same presence. So, I mean, I know that we can sit there and talk to somebody that we don't want to talk to, and of course, like leave our bodies, but I'm talking about connection with the people that you actually love, that actually add to you, and also seeking connection. So instead of saying, like, I'm seeking new clients or I'm seeking love, it's like, I am seeking connection. It's going to bring you into your heart. And I just see this working instantly, like being super fast and almost realizing that, oh, wow, my happiness doesn't need to be in the future. It actually can be right here when I seek connection. Message number 5: you are going to receive a ton of happiness from the eyes. This is obviously why we seek travel, because we want to see new things. And I'm getting that we can do that in very small ways and that we are wanting to feel happy through our eyes. So, this may mean like just going to a different grocery store than you typically go to, going to a different coffee shop that you typically go to. Obviously, all of us want to do those big travel trips, but that's not always possible for all of us. So, doing it in very small ways. And even saying that, even when I'm going to a place that I don't really wanna go to, like, maybe I'm going to a doctor's office or whatever. But if that doctor's office is new or something that's out of the norm, believe it or not, when you focus on your eyes and what you are actually seeing and being present with that, of course, that's also why presence equals happiness, right? That's what we're obviously hearing in today's messages. But using your eyes to bring you to this present moment and to see that anything new really excites us, even if it's something that we don't find beautiful, but it's new and it's different, happiness is coming from there. So you might be saying, like, I need to go to Italy to be happy because it's brand new, but I'm actually getting that you just need to see new things. So bringing yourself to an art gallery, bringing yourself to a new shop, something in your town, going down a different street, even just saying, I'm going to take a new road back home today. All of that is actually going to bring you happiness. You don't need to go super far. And this, again, I guess the reason some of this messaging is coming forward is because we do need inspiration and next steps, because we are doing something new or we're trying to bring something into our lives that it's just the old ways of doing it is just it's not working. So it almost seems like we might be following other like old paths and it's not working right now. So the reason happiness is like a conversation is because happiness is presence, and when we're in the present moment, these inspirations and these messages come through. And I'm seeing this exercise almost like a almost like a walking meditation, but an eye meditation, if that makes sense. I was many, many years ago when I was first getting into this work. I took this class in the Standard Hotel taught by, hold on, I'm going to remember her name. Ugh, her last name is Grace. I can't remember her first name. But anyways, it was a super cool class. And one of the exercise she had us do was about being present. And we had to pick one sense. So seeing, feeling, touching. And we needed to walk around a room just using that one sense. So let's say I picked seeing. So I would go around this room only focusing on my ability to see. And it was amazing how much more I saw. Like I'll be like, oh my gosh, even if it was my own room. I remember doing this with a company, like a PR company that I was brought in to do a talk with. And the owner of the company, he chose to do the meditation with just hearing. And after the meditation, he's like, well, now I'm worse off because I realized that the AC sounds so bad and now I'm going to have to fix that. And it was like, he has walked into that office all the time. He had never heard the AC sound like that before until we did the meditation. So I think we seek newness and we kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I need all these new things to be happy. And we're just like always seeking this new inspiration. But if you focus just on your eyes and you do a little walking meditation with just your eyes, it looks like it brings you so much joy and brings you new energy and also inspiration and messages. And it's a easy way to come back into the present moment. So really focusing on what I'm seeing. Message number 6. This is such a good one. Happiness is going to come from finishing. Guys, we've all made these promises to ourselves, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and we just don't complete it. But why is it that, like, when you clean out a closet and you actually finish the project, like, you are so happy, right? Benny is currently cleaning out the garage with Thank You, Baby Jesus. I was like, I manifested that. I was sending him vibes, and somehow he picked up on it. And he's been cleaning out the garage. And it's a big project because it's a 2-car garage. And somehow Benny has sprawled out to take up these 2-car garages. But every day he's like, "Oh my gosh, you have to come see it." Like, he wants me to see the progress because it's bringing him so much happiness as he's doing it and he's almost done. And it's amazing how that brings us happiness, like the completion of a project. And I think it's for 2 reasons. Number 1, we are just making good on something that we promised ourselves. And number 2, just like, okay, you finished something, like that's the best feeling. But I'm getting this from like little things, like almost like finishing a hard workout, right? It doesn't have to be a project that takes 6 months. Finishing the first chapter of a book, finishing this thing that I said I was going to call my mom and I actually did it. That's why we love like checking things off the checklist. But this is about finishing. So maybe taking a moment today to be like, okay, what are some things that I've started that I haven't finished? What are some things that I said I wanted to do, but I have not like completed that project? There's a ton of happiness for you there, right there in that process. And it just looks like you change the way you see yourself. And happiness, of course, comes with being happy with ourselves and how do we see ourselves. So you can actually become a person that finishes things, and that is going to bring a ton of happiness. And finally, message number 7, happiness is in the body. Again, we might as well call this an episode about presence, but the body is saying like the happiness is within me. And one of the reasons like why we can't even get to happiness sometimes is because the body doesn't get enough rest. You're like, I know, Nikki, I know this is true. Have you been talking to my therapist? So actually resting and deciding to like let the body rest. And sometimes we think like resting is checking out, right? Like watching a whole day worth of Netflix, but this feels like it's a resting of I'm just going to sit outside, stare at my kids playing, and I'm just going to tell myself it's okay to rest. So again, like bringing my those thoughts and that racing mind, bringing it down into my body and just like letting that go and being present in who I am and where my body is and letting my body know like we are literally going to take a rest. And resting doesn't always mean that like I'm able to sit down and look outside, but resting could be I'm cooking and I'm going to let myself rest by being very present in what I'm cooking. I don't need to think about anything else. I don't need to solve any problems. I don't need to think about my grocery list. I'm just going to be here cutting the carrots and cooking the saute, whatever it may be, and actually letting my body rest. Because it's funny because obviously like that go 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 is in the mind and not in the body, but it almost looks like the body is holding up and in this tense place, like while the brain is doing that thing. And the body's like, I just want to rest. And a lot of happiness will come from there. I'll be able to fuel you, give you more energy. You'll be able to wake up better when you are rested. Obviously, this is a message about sleeping well and things like that. Man, can I tell you a new thing? I don't have a problem sleeping, but um Benny is kind of he just moves a lot when he's sleeping, so he wakes me up a lot. So I'm always trying to look for things that like help me relax more and make sure that I'm not like watching TV before I go to sleep. I'm always playing with this routine, but it's hard because my day ends at 9 o'clock because I put the kids to sleep. So it's like I have this like little time to decompress and then go to sleep. But lately, I have been drinking tea before I go to sleep from the land. So I have spearmint and nettle from my garden and I just make a simple tea with it. And I am falling like deeply asleep. It just relaxes me. I always think that it's so important to taste the land. So it's like my connection, it's like my little routine before I go to sleep to connect to the land and then fall asleep. And I don't know if it's just in my head, but I sleep better bef- if I have this nice warm tea. So that's my little tip, guys. But, anyways, your body is just like, let me rest. And I promise I will bring you not just happiness, but energy to be able to move forward. All right, friends, those are our messages. I know this podcast episode was a little different than what we usually do because I think we are dreamers and we're always looking ahead and we're always trying to make things happen and hack and change our energy. And I know this one is so different because it's simple and grounded and peaceful. But I promise that there is a purpose for this. I'm sure there's somebody here that's like, "Oh, I absolutely needed to hear this." But it's really about this is the energy of happiness and the vibration of happiness. And if all these things in the future are supposed to bring us happiness, we're going to meet them by existing in this place. And obviously, what I took away from today's episode was all about being present and being here and just grounding into this moment and doing the thing and just being joyful in that exact moment and really simplifying the way we think about what we want and what we need and just that grind of trying to get it. There's this place of like being right here. I think this was also coming through because it is summer here in the US and you can't get on social media without seeing somebody going on some epic trip. It looks like everybody's having the best time and on all these trips. And there's many of us that are here, maybe with a baby or we're working hard or we don't have the finances for it, whatever it may be. And it's just really easy to kind of look around and being like, this sucks. And I just wanted to bring an episode that brings you back to yourself in the simplest form. So I almost feel like I didn't have a ton to say today because it is a real simple message about being here and being present. But I trust this to be one of the most important practices. And we've been hearing a lot about being rather than doing. And that is what I feel like happiness is. It's actually being in ourselves, being our vibration. And that's when we're the happiest because we are being us. So I hope this was supportive, expansive, sending you lots of love. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. We will have a business episode in Clarity app on Thursday if you're there with us. And just send me a comment, say hello. I love hearing from you. Sending you lots of love. See you next time.